In my last video, I looked at how to use a flash with a Fuji X100 series camera, specifically the X100T I have here. However, this time I'm going to look at the why you should use flash in street photography. In many ways, I probably should have started with the why rather than the how. After all, that's a more important question. If you don't know why, then why would you even bother to do it? So in this video, I'm going to look at what I think are the two main reasons that you may want to use flash for your street photography. In the next video, I'm going to look at some reasons why you perhaps shouldn't use flash for street photography and some objections people have as well, and perhaps tackle some of those objections. So in this video, the two main reasons why you should use flash in street photography. I believe, summing them up, they are that you can control the light with flash, and also flash has a certain aesthetic that you can't get any other way. So taking the first reason, controlling the light. Let's imagine it's at night and you want to take street photos. You've got some limitations there because there isn't that much available light around you. This may mean you have to use a shallow depth field, and you may use a longer shutter speed, slower shutter speed. This will probably mean that you'll get photos which have a certain look. They may not be in focus, there may be a lot of motion blur, and basically undesirable effects from that. By using a flash, you can overcome those limitations because you are in control of the light source. You are bringing light with you. So if your camera has a limited amount of ISO, this could be based on film or digital as well because there's too much noise, you can overcome that by using a flash. But it doesn't just stop with night photography. This is also something that's relevant to shooting in the day as well. Let's say you're walking into the sun and the sun's really bright. What that's going to do is that's going to probably cause the people walking towards you to be silhouetted. There won't be enough detail in their faces or on their front because there isn't that much light coming at them. There's much greater light behind them. Even if there is light coming at them, the light behind them will overpower it, and so you'll either end up with these crazily blown highlights in the background if you try and get detail in the foreground, or you won't have any detail in the foreground. If you're using exposure that's based on metering for the whole scene, then you won't be able to meter correctly as well. So a flash is a way that you can overcome that by doing what's called Fillin Flash, where you fill in the details on the front that are hidden from the shadows there. And so that's a way that you can be walking into the sunlight, and you can also have detail on your subjects who are coming towards you. And of course it goes beyond this as well. You can use your flash in other situations, perhaps in a place where there's a bright background and a dark foreground, and you can get exposure on the foreground and still keep that background exposed well as well. So really, by using a flash, you are in control of the light source. You get to decide what the light's going to be. And this is a great way to overcome some of the obstacles that we all face when taking street photos. So that's the first reason, controlling the light. The second is the aesthetics of flash. Now, if you've looked at flash street photos even, I'm sure you've noticed they have a very distinct style. And that's because we're using a very specific type of light source. So its characteristics are that this is a small, relatively small light source, and that's going to make it a harsh light source, and also it's very directional. If you've got on camera or off camera, you've got a directional light source because of its size. This is in contrast to something like overcast skies, which it is today, very overcast, or something like the golden hours, where you get these beautiful soft shadows as well. So this is going to lead to harsh shadows, deep shadows, and also because it's small and bright, it gives you a very garish colour look, very bright saturated colours that come out of your flash unit. You could modify this. I guess in theory you could be bringing one of these like small soft boxes with you. Some people choose to do that, and that would give them a very different look again. So I guess in theory you could have soft light with your flash, but I'm going to assume that you're going to use, that it's going to produce harsh light and that you're going to keep it as it is. So this gives you a certain style. If you think of photos like those of Bruce Gilden, that's the sort of style that is typically associated with flash. Now you may not like that, but I think a lot of people do. There's also another element of flash street photography style that I think is very common when you talk about those photos, and that is the ones where you have a long shutter speed at night and you also have a flash being used and fired. And so what that leads to is light streaks in the background and a sense of movement going on in the background, but you have a frozen subject in the foreground. And this is something which is really hard to get any other way. I mean, I guess in theory you might be able to do it by having like a giant window from a shop behind you which is casting out a lot of light, and then you have the exposure set behind you to something else. But basically, good luck trying to do that. I would love to see if someone's managed to do that well. I doubt the light behind you is going to be bright enough to create that effect. So if you want to get that sort of style where you have like frozen subject in the foreground and movement in the background, a sense of movement from light streaks, then you need to use a flash to do it. You can also do some other things like you can turn down the exposure of the background light by using flash in the foreground. So you have your figures in the foreground exposed properly, and maybe the background sky is a little darker than it would be otherwise, and that can create different moods as well. So flash can really help you create different moods and aesthetics with different styles than you'd see elsewhere. So if you want some examples of this, I'd really recommend you check out the photos of Martin Parr. He often uses flash, and also Bruce Gilden as well, another classic flash street photographer. So those two reasons again, just to recap, flash will allow you to control the light. This could be on camera, off camera, leading to directional, compensating for exposure or lack of light that you have around. And also it provides a certain aesthetic, a certain style of street photo that you may want to go after. If you can think of any other reasons, or if you disagree with the reasons I've given, please leave a comment below. And also, if you have any reasons that you think you shouldn't use flash, or any objections to using flash, leave a comment as well, and maybe I'll cover them in the next video where I look at reasons not to use flash in street photography. I hope you've liked it. If you have liked it, please like this video. Also make sure you subscribe to catch the next video. If you'd like to get an free ebook guide on street photography and flash street photography, then head over to Christopher J, that's the letter J, wilson.com. You can sign up for the Street Photography Academy, and that will give you access to my free beginner's guide to street photography and beginner's guide to flash street photography.